is Tumi desu.
I'm gonna be doing something different from my normal writing streams this time. As you can tell, I have this page up, and some of you might already know this. It's Grammarly. So Grammarly is actually free to download for all. And then if you want an upgrade, there's actually a premium version, which I actually bought in the last few days, which means I've been playing around and messing around with it for a little bit to see the functions, the new functions, and whether it would add value to my writing style. So I threw in one of my chapters that I wrote like before this, and hell yeah, this is exactly what you would be seeing if you go on Grammarly. So I threw all this in, and I was like, yeah, okay. So they were like, okay, you need to be consistent. You have all this stuff. So different colors actually mean different things. So red is usually involved. It's spelling, grammar, punctuation, and I realized that I have a terrible habit of actually throwing away commas before my conjunctions and stuff like that. So before and, before but, before so, before all those things, I'm supposed to add in commas. Apparently, it's English grammatical rules that I have been throwing away for the longest time as like possible, because I just hate commas, I guess. Then clarity actually helps you to spot if you are passive or, talking in a passive voice, and they would advise sometimes to rephrase it in a way that is easier for the general public to read. This is very subjective actually, because sometimes like redundancy and conciseness, they would tell you that a certain word is not recommended, or they would think it's a repeat and you don't want to put it in just for the sake of word count. You want to give quality sentences to talk about things in a more precise manner rather than just the word vomit, which I agree with some of it, but some of it over here, it's you need it in there to follow the pacing and thoughts of the story flow. But this is Grammarly, so I would reject some of these things. And in terms of engagement, Grammarly has this option that you can choose for your style. So it's something like this. It's tone and stuff like that. An example would be like this. And if I go on the settings, I think it was settings. Okay, I'm actually still not very sure. There we go. So if you click on the goals in Grammarly, it's only available in premium, I think. So you can set your audience to, like, for example, I want my audience to be general, which means I want it to be simple English, which obviously the web novel readers are catered for, because not a lot of them have English as their first language. It's perfect. And then I want my formality to be kind of neutral, because I'm not writing like an essay for like my degree. No, I'm just writing a novel, but I don't want to be informal, like too informal, because it's not texting my BFF. And in terms of domain, so I usually put it to creative. I don't know why it's actually not sticking. Like I remember setting this before. The intent is to tell a story because it's creative content anyways, but the tone is what actually affects your choice of words. So if you pick certain, like for example, you pick respectful, they would offer you advices to change certain choice of words used to suit the tone that you're aiming for. I think that's a huge thing, because I have not seen this anywhere else. Like I don't know if there are other softwares that does the same, but it's very interesting how they actually advise you. And Grammarly, I think it's only premium. They have this option whereby if you were to go and highlight the word and you wait, and it will give you synonyms, so you don't have to go to a thesaurus anymore, which is actually awesome, because sometimes thesaurus is one of my best friends, and I spend the longest time looking for a word that sounds similar. Like, if I have a brain, like a writer's block and English doesn't function that day, I can't find the word that I'm thinking of. I'm like, oh, it starts with an A, but I can't remember. So this is how it actually, it's helpful. And then there was one thing about Grammarly that I really like. It's called the Plagiarism Checker. So I've covered engagement. I'm gonna delivery, it's some kind of, the tone as well. Style guide, I got no idea, man. Yeah, but anyway, so this is not applicable to me at the very least. And then there's this get expert writing help, which is human proofreading, which I really don't think I want to be paying for, because the software actually does quite a good job of picking out majority of the stuff, especially if you're self-published. It's just it, man. You have a good grasp of the English language, so maybe a TOEFL level. You graduated school, you know your grammar rules. This is gonna help you, and this is This software is just picking up everything that you missed out in your word vomit, and then you use it to polish it after you've done your content editing and your line editing to make it smoother. So the software only aids in, smoothing out what the human missed based on the rules. The one that I'm looking at is plagiarism, because, like, one of the deepest fears a creative writer or an original content creator has is basically ripping off somebody's work unknowingly. So this is actually something that really helps. So 1% of my text actually match the source, and I can, they even gave you the source, so they run it through a checker, and then they tell you which is the sentence, like, oh, it's just this few words, okay, maybe it's not that much, you see. So I check it, and the cool thing is Control Find does a good job. So anything that's on the internet, Grammarly can find. It's not exact. Just checking that nobody else has actually, used it. And if it's 1%, it's a little bit, it's fine, because these are like common words strung together. But your content should not be 80% or even 20% copy and lifted without citations. So these are words that I came up with, but it somehow matches somebody else's creations already, so that's fine. So if you're a student and you're wondering, should I actually get Grammarly Premium, chances are you might want to, but it might be a little bit too pricey for a student's budget as well. I didn't think it would work, honestly speaking, but it actually does work, so I'm very impressed, actually. These are all the platforms that Grammarly currently support, and I don't know if it works for Scrivener, but I'm assuming no. So yeah, so far so good. It doesn't look like I missed out anything important for now. So Grammarly checked all my typo errors, I guess. Yeah, most of it. So I don't see any red lines. You probably see me like clicking and correcting some of those red lines and using the thesaurus function, the synonym function, a few times. Like, I couldn't find the right word, but anyway, I got it. My brain's not English, so I'm gonna click this. It says 11. Let's see. So usually it gives me top suggestions, and it's not a good thing because I want everything. So in between sprints, if you have some time, this is what I usually do. So it's like 87% right now. It represents the quality of my writing, but this is just a system's judge of it. It's not in any way to say that you're not doing good or anything, okay? It's just a system judge. So blue, it's about clarity. I usually will fix the red ones first because this is just grammar, and I know I hate commas a lot like this. It's not something I can fix immediately. It's also probably not something I will want to fix, because I have a system that can do it for me right now. Okay, so punctuation, where does this come in? Here. So it will highlight for you the part that they recommend changes. And in this case, I need to read it all over again. So children like the idea and zero blinked. How will you do that? We're bound by a magic contract. You cannot harm me. Yeah, so stuff like that. So blue, I will leave it for now. So it's clarity. As you can see, some cases they actually recommend a suggestion to rewrite it, and in some cases there isn't one. For example, this, there isn't one, but they would tell you the reason why they would recommend a suggestion. So this is my use as I go on Grammarly Premium. There will be another check that I do with Grammarly Premium after this, but not yet. So my editing process with this is currently quite lengthy. So I would usually write some stuff. Like, if I disagree with it, I will comment. Yeah, so it takes some time to update, especially if you make changes like that. So yeah, now once all the red is done, usually I would see my score up a little bit. So it was like 96 earlier, it's like 97 right now. So clarity is something that is subjective, especially if you're an experienced author and you know what you're doing. So clarity, like for example, they consider this a passive telling. There's a trash can button over here at the side that says dismiss, which I normally do. Like this. There is no replacement for they. And it's stupid to actually write out who they are in context. So this is where the program falls short. A very good distraction, a perfect, okay, I mean, sure, but it's not. Like, as a writer, okay, so they did explain, you could suggest and opt for this, but it it's not a perfect distraction. I mean, there are probably better ways to do it, so I'll dismiss this. It's subjective, it's preference now. So yeah, this part of the editing process probably can be considered content editing, and somewhat line editing, more closer towards line editing. So Grammarly helps you line edit. For those of you who don't know the difference between content editing and line editing, content editing is more towards the flow of the structure, the plots. Which sentence should go where? Should this come before or after the scene? That's content editing, which you do. And line editing is kind of like Grammarly picking out all these words like, oh, this sentence is a little bit too chunky, or maybe this word has a better alternative to use, or the expression is not accurate to the scene in context. This is line editing, so it's closer towards line editing. Grammarly actually missed out something here. Check out this, and this is why word checker is important. If I didn't line edit this, it's not gonna be noticed by Grammarly at all, which kind of, yeah, it defeats the purpose. But my typos are interesting. As you can see, it was like 533 before this, and now it's like 517. So Grammarly does help to remove certain redundancies. One good thing about Grammarly I realize is, the ability to make your work more concise and precise and pick out things that you don't actually know. So it's like in the middle of content editing and line editing, it helps with both. But it's not comprehensive, as you can see for yourself earlier. Like there was this typo where I missed out the I in and it didn't pick it out. But if I were to transfer this into the Word document, okay, I'm just gonna leave this here, okay? I'm just gonna deliberately delete this here and save it, so that when I copy it over to the Word document checker, you can actually see that the word checker in docs like Google Docs picks it out, that Grammarly doesn't. It still hasn't picked it out. I'm gonna try refreshing it. It's still at 100%. It's not picking it up. Alright, so assuming that this is a done chapter, a product that I put over here. Okay, so F7 for you guys. It's grammar. So it still does pick out stuff that Grammarly fails to check and pick out on. Yeah, see, this is the one that I actually said I missed out, like the I in the in, and it's just an N, and Grammarly just completely does not pick that out. So this is why it's safer to run it through two checkers, like Word document, and the word checker in Chrome is way more advanced when picking out stuff like that, especially typo. I will dismiss this, so it's good. So yeah, that's all for the demonstration of me writing live. It's not a chapter, but the stream has gone on for about an hour. Awkward ending, but I guess that's it for now. Bye. Just know that I'm a little bit crazy. I'm like hanging on to the last brain cell that's powered by coffee that I drank at dinner. And yeah, my health is also on the last clutch. Like if 20% is the base for a person who is not dying, I'm at 20%. My spine is not doing good. Thanks to the new job that I get. It was like on-job training, and then there was like plastic stool, and I had to sit there and observe classes for like 8 hours on a Saturday and like 4 hours on a Sunday, and I just cannot make it. There are monsters on Inkstone right now. Just saying. They hit like 2k words in 20-minute sprints, and I just don't understand how somebody's fingers can possibly move that fast. I don't. Like, maybe they type with 10 fingers, and all 10 fingers are of like monster speed. I only type with 4 fingers. So that's a limitation, a physical limitation.